Think about this. If a stranger insults you, you might stew in anger for hours, but if the same words came from a 3-year-old, you'd probably just laugh. The difference isn't in the words, it's in how you interpret them. So how do you reach a point where nothing can disturb your peace? The answer lies in a philosophy that has stood the test of time. Stoicism. It doesn't teach you to suppress your emotions or become indifferent instead. It helps you master your mind so that nothing can affect you unless you allow it. In this video, you'll learn 10 ways to turn calmness into your greatest weapon so that no one can shake you and no situation can pull you down. Get ready, because after today, the world may remain the same, but you won't. Number 1. Art to control. You must have felt like the whole world is conspiring against you. You are waiting in line for coffee, but the person in front of you is taking forever to find their money. You are driving only to get stuck behind someone crawling along in the fast lane. You spend a whole week working on a report, and your boss barely skims it before tossing out a cold. Needs revision. Frustrating, of course, but ask yourself, are these things really bothering you, or are you letting them? The core principle of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control, says that the world consists of 2 kinds of things, those we can control and those we cannot. Try a small exercise. Close your eyes and think about everything that frustrated you this past week. How many of those things were actually within your control? You can't force other drivers to be more mindful, but you can control how you react. You can't make the person in front of you move faster, but you can take that moment to breathe instead of fuming. You can't dictate your boss's mood, but you can decide how you receive their feedback. There's a story about a Stoic. One day a man came to him complaining that his neighbor was talking badly about him. The Stoic simply smiled and asked, "Were you forced to listen?" And that's the point. We get to choose how we take things in. If you find yourself easily dragged into anger and frustration, the problem isn't the world. It's you. Imagine your mind as an on-off switch. Everything out there, bad news, annoying people. Unlucky days can only affect you if you turn the switch on, but you can choose to leave it off. Here's a truth few people want to accept. Most of our suffering doesn't come from the world itself, but from how we interpret it. You drop your phone, that's just an event. But if you think, "This is the worst day ever. I'm so clumsy," you've made it worse. You could think differently. Dropped my phone. Let's see. The screen's still intact. I'll be more careful next time. If you want to practice the dichotomy of control, start small. Start when something irritates you. Ask yourself, do I control this? If the answer is no, let it go. That doesn't mean you have to passively accept everything. It just means it's not worth your energy. A neighbor plays loud music. You can talk to them, but if they don't change, you can get noise-canceling headphones instead of stewing in frustration, stuck in traffic, inevitable. But you can put on your favorite podcast instead of cursing in your car. Someone criticizes you. You can't control their thoughts, but you can control how you handle their words. Want to be untouchable by life's annoyances? Stop letting trivial things take up space in your mind. Try this for just one day, only one day, and see how your life shifts. Number 2. Amor Fati. There are moments in life you never ask for. Losing a job, betrayal, illness, crushing failure. You can resist rage against the unfairness of it all, or you can accept it as part of a greater design you can't yet see. Is Amor Fati loving your fate? Not in passive resignation, but in active embrace. Imagine a sudden storm ruining the picnic you had been looking forward to. Most people would curse the sky, complain about their bad luck, but Stoic sees something else, a chance to feel the rain, to listen to its rhythm, to create a new plan they hadn't considered. Nothing is bad unless you decide it is. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." A strong fire doesn't discriminate between fuel, whether it's dry wood or debris. Everything feeds its flames. You too can be that fire, transforming obstacles into energy, but this doesn't mean suppressing your emotions when losing a loved one. Grief is natural. Yet Amor teaches that instead of resisting reality with bitterness, you can cherish the time you had and be grateful for the moments shared. Think of Job in the Bible, who lost everything and still said, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Strength isn't about controlling fate. It's about controlling your response to it. Some might ask, how can I love a tragedy? But that question is flawed from the start. It's the way you define tragedy that makes it one. People suffer most when they resist the current of life, wishing it were different instead of learning how to swim with it. Imagine yourself as a boxer when your opponent throws a punch. You can take it stiffly and feel its full impact, or you can absorb the momentum, pivot, and turn it into an opportunity to strike back. Amor Fati doesn't mean accepting defeat. It means making every hit work in your favor. So how do you apply this in everyday life? The next time something bad happens, don't ask, "Why me?" Instead ask, "What is this teaching me?" If someone betrays you, you learn to choose your friends wisely. If you lose your job, you have a chance to redefine your path. If you fail, you gain experience. When hardship comes, tell yourself, "Good. Let's see how I can use this." Accepting fate doesn't mean giving up control. It means achieving a higher level of freedom. Freedom from unrealistic expectations, freedom from unnecessary complaints. And this leads us to the next lesson: self-control. If Amor Fati teaches us to embrace reality, self-control teaches us how to act within it. Accepting fate with grace is one thing, but having the discipline to respond well to it is another. Are you ready for the next step? Number 3, self-control. Have you ever found yourself irrationally angry over something trivial? Maybe it was a seen message with no reply, an annoyed glance from a colleague, or a stranger bumping into you without apologizing. That tiny moment ends up ruining your entire day, as if someone could control your emotions with a mere snap of their fingers. But think about it. Why does someone so insignificant have that much power over your mind if something so small can set you off? Are you truly in control of yourself? That's the real issue. You think you are steering your life, but in reality, you are being pulled by everything around you. Self-control doesn't mean becoming an emotionless machine. It means not letting the outside world dictate how you feel. Imagine you are driving and suddenly an impatient driver honks aggressively and swerves past you. If you react instinctively, you'll get angry, maybe even speed up to teach them a lesson. But then what? You are only punishing yourself. Your heart rate spikes, adrenaline floods your brain, and your entire day is ruined over a stranger you'll likely never see again. That person has already forgotten about you, yet you carry that frustration for hours. Does that make sense? So how do you practice self-control first? Create distance between emotion and reaction. When something irritates you, don't respond immediately. Imagine your mind as a phone. Every time someone provokes you, they're making a call, but do you have to pick it up? No. Let it ring. Let the noise pass. And ask yourself, is this really worth my energy? Most of the time, the answer will be no. Second, turn adversity into training, just as muscles grow stronger through resistance. Self-discipline strengthens through challenges. The next time someone frustrates you, don't see it as an insult. See it as a workout, an unreasonable client, a chance to practice composure, a stubborn coworker, a test of patience from now on. When facing a stressful situation, ask yourself, if I stay calm, how strong will I become? The way you respond doesn't just shape that moment, it shapes who you are. Here's the paradox. Those with the highest self-control are the freest. Many think freedom means doing whatever they want, but if you can't master your emotions, you are just a puppet of the world around you. So the real question is, will you keep letting others decide how you feel, or will you take the wheel? Try it now. One moment of restraint. One choice to stay calm when anger feels justified. And if you've ever succeeded in mastering yourself, share your story. Who knows? Your experience might help someone else find the freedom they never thought possible. And if you are ready to keep growing into a stronger version of yourself, stick around. We have a lot more to explore. Number 4, master emotions. Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. We don't get angry because of what others say. We get angry because of how we interpret it. If someone calls you a failure, it only stings if you yourself doubt your worth. If a random person on the street calls you Mr. President, would you feel proud? No, because you know it isn't true. So why feel hurt when someone calls you stupid? The Stoics were not emotionless statues. They simply understood a crucial principle. Your emotions belong to you. No one can force you to feel anything unless you allow it. But how do you actually reach a state of unshakable composure? One simple, yet effective method is to create space between an event and your reaction. When someone insults you, don't respond immediately. Pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, does this really matter? Or does this person truly know me? If the answer is no, then why let them control your emotions? Another strategy is to reframe your thinking. When someone says something negative, instead of thinking they are attacking me, try, they are revealing themselves. A person who speaks with venom, who rarely happy, they may be angry at life, wounded or filled with resentment. When a wounded dog bites, it's not about you, it's about its pain. When a suffering person lashes out, it's not about you, it's about them. But here's an important distinction. Controlling your emotions does not mean suppressing them. If someone insults you and you feel irritated, that doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are human. But instead of letting anger control you, use it. Let it be a signal, a chance to understand yourself better. Why did that comment affect me? Fear did it touch in me? Once you understand this, you begin to master yourself. Emotional restraint does not mean becoming numb. It means choosing what is worth investing your emotions in. If a close friend criticizes you, maybe you should listen. But if a stranger, a colleague, or some anonymous commenter on the internet insults you, is it worth losing sleep over? Would you let a passerby dictate your mood? Jesus, in his final moments on the cross, did not curse his executioners, but said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." That is the ultimate form of composure. If he could hold on to that mindset in the most excruciating moment. Are the trivial offenses of daily life really worth your anger? You can't control what others say, but you can control how you respond. And when you truly grasp that, you become untouchable. No one can stir you up. No one can drag you into negativity. You become the master of yourself, a fortress standing firm in the storm of life. But there's something even more important. Your time is limited. Do you really want to waste it on fleeting anger and meaningless insults, or will you use it to live a life that matters? That's why the next lesson is one to remember: Memento Mori. Remember that you will die, and when that moment comes, you won't care about petty words. You'll only regret not having lived more freely. Number 5, Memento Mori. There is one certainty in life. No matter who you are, rich or poor, strong or weak, you will die. No one escapes it, but instead of fearing this truth, why not turn it into power? This is the essence of Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. A phrase that might seem grim at first, but in reality, it is the ultimate weapon against the distractions and anxieties of life. Think about the times you've been angry because someone insulted you or frustrated by criticism. But if in that very moment you reminded yourself that both you and that person will eventually be gone, would that anger still be worth holding on to when faced with the fleeting nature of life? Insults lose their weight and social pressures become meaningless. This doesn't lead to indifference or apathy. It does the opposite. It helps you live with clarity, focusing only on what truly matters. The ancient Romans had a unique custom. When a victorious general returned to the city, greeted by deafening cheers, a slave would stand beside him and whisper into his ear Respi's poster, "Look behind you. Remember that you are only a man. Remember that you will die." A simple reminder, yet powerful enough to keep him grounded, preventing him from drowning in the illusion of glory. The same applies to us whether we succeed or fail. We all return to dust, so why fear the judgment of others? Why worry about things that will soon be gone? But how do you truly live by Memento Mori instead of just understanding it? First, train yourself to view every event in life through the lens of death. When someone angers you, ask, if I were to die tomorrow, would this still matter? When you hesitate before making a decision, think, if today were my last, what would I do? This mindset cuts away the unnecessary and refocus your attention on what is truly valuable. Another way to practice is by actively confronting death. Visit a cemetery. Read the inscriptions on tombstones and recognize that fame, status, and petty conflicts all end up buried. Imagine your final moments. How do you want to feel? Regretful for wasting time on trivial matters, or at peace knowing you stayed true to what was important? If death is inevitable, then the only thing that truly matters is how we live before it arrives. Ultimately, Stoicism is never just theoretical. It is not meant to be read and forgotten, but applied immediately. Ask yourself, if today were your last, would you still care about the little things? Would you let fear hold you back? Or would you act with absolute freedom? Live in a way that when death comes, you can smile, knowing nothing could ever truly shake your soul. Right now, you've made it halfway through this video. And that is no small feat in a world full of distractions. Sitting down and absorbing knowledge is already a victory. But don't stop here. What you are about to discover next will complete the picture, showing you not just how to understand mental invincibility, but how to apply it to your life. If you found value in what we've explored so far, leave a sign. Something as simple as a like to help spread this philosophy to more people. And now let's continue, because the most important part is still ahead. Number 6, believe in yourself. There's a simple truth that few dare to admit. You are not hurt because others are too strong, but because you are not strong enough. A harsh comment, a dismissive glance, a failure. These things can only shake you if you allow them to. That's why self-belief is the strongest shield against external forces. But believing in yourself doesn't mean blindly assuming you are always right. It means knowing your worth so well that no one can make you doubt yourself. Imagine you are an athlete preparing for a big competition. Outsiders may underestimate you, mock you, or question your abilities. But if you know how much you've trained, how well you've prepared, do their words still matter? When you truly believe in yourself, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Real confidence isn't about shouting, "I'm great." It's about staying calm in the face of doubt, because you understand yourself deeply enough not to waver. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. It's ironic how people fear being judged, yet allow others' opinions to dictate their lives." A passing remark can keep someone awake at night questioning themselves, when in reality they are the only ones who truly know what they've done. If you genuinely believe in yourself, you'll break free from the endless cycle of seeking external validation. You'll dare to move forward even when the world turns its back, because you know you are on the right path. But how do you build self-belief? First, stop comparing. An oak tree doesn't look at a willow and question its worth. You have your own journey, your own abilities, and your own reason to exist. When you focus on yourself instead of others, your confidence will naturally grow. Second, keep the promises you make to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something, but don't you erode your own trust, but every small commitment you follow through strengthens the foundation of your confidence. Tag. Embrace failure as part of the process. No fighter is undefeated forever, but the strongest one is the one who gets back up the fastest. If you refuse to let failure define you, you will never truly be defeated. The Bible says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." The real reward belongs to those who remain steadfast through hardship. True self-belief isn't built on praise or easy victories. It comes from falling and rising again. If you no longer doubt yourself, no one can make you falter. And once you've learned to trust yourself, the next step is to determine what truly matters. Because confidence without direction can easily turn into arrogance. That's why the next lesson is about focusing on your core values, the very thing that will not only help you stand firm, but also walk the right path. Number 7, focus on core values. There's a simple question that can shake the very foundation of your being. If tomorrow everything you own, your wealth, your reputation, your status were to disappear, what would be left? Most people would be unsettled, realizing they've tied their self-worth to things that can be taken away, but a Stoic wouldn't flinch. Their strength doesn't come from power or control, but from something untouchable, their core values. Think of a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. No matter how violent the waves, it remains unmoved because it isn't anchored to the water, but to the rock. Beneath, your core values work the same way. They are the unshakable foundation that keeps you steady in life's storms if you know what you stand for. Integrity, courage, compassion. You won't be easily swayed by opinions, rejection, or loss. People might take your job, but they can't take your work ethic. They might betray you, but they can't turn you into a betrayer. One of the most powerful ways to apply this principle is to decide right now what is non-negotiable in your life. Some people value honesty above all else. They'd rather lose an opportunity than tell a lie. Others prioritize loyalty. They refuse to betray no matter the temptation. When you are clear on this, decision-making becomes effortless. If someone asks you to go against your principles, you won't hesitate. The answer is already decided, as Marcus Aurelius put it, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. But here's the interesting part. When you live by your core values, you don't just become stronger, you earn the respect of others. Think of someone you truly admire. It's not because they're rich or famous, but because they have an unshakable quality, perhaps integrity, courage, or resilience. They may have faced failure, but they never lost themselves. That's what makes them untouchable. Even the Bible says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." Those who compromise their values for short-term gain may succeed for a while, but eventually their lack of authenticity is exposed. On the other hand, those who hold firm to their principles build a foundation that cannot be broken. The truth is, the world will test you again and again. You'll face moments that challenge what you believe in a friend might suggest. Cutting corners for quick gains, an opportunity may arise, but only if you compromise your ethics, and that's the defining moment. Are you truly untouchable? Will you stand firm or let circumstances dictate who you are? This isn't a question for philosophers on paper, it's a question for you right now. So ask yourself what value matters most to you. If everything external vanished tomorrow, what would still remain within you? If you found your answer, live by it as if nothing else matters. And if you are ready to be untouchable, comment untouchable. Core to affirm your commitment. Number 8, anti-fragile mindset. Imagine you are holding a glass and throwing it to the ground. It shatters a metal cup. It might dent, but a rubber ball, not only does it remain intact, but it also bounces back even higher. If your mind is like glass, every shock in life will leave cracks. If you are like the metal cup, you can endure, but the scars remain. But if you are the rubber ball, you don't just withstand the impact. You use it to propel yourself even higher. This is the essence of being anti-fragile, not just resilient, but growing stronger through adversity. Someone insults you. A fragile mind reacts in anger. A resilient mind endures and moves on. But an anti-fragile mind treats the insult as emotional training. It doesn't just remain unaffected. It sharpens its ability to stay calm and in control. Remember, the more easily you are provoked by words, the easier you are to manipulate. If a single comment can upset you, you've already given someone else control over your emotions. You fail at work, the average person feels discouraged. A strong person perseveres, but someone with an anti-fragile mindset doesn't just get back up. Analyze the failure, extract lessons, adjust their strategy, and come back even stronger. Thomas Edison once said he didn't fail 10,000 times when inventing the light bulb. He simply discovered 10,000 ways that didn't work. That is the mindset of someone who cannot be defeated. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." When faced with a wall, you can despair, you can try to go around it, or you can use it to climb even higher. The anti-fragile thinker turns obstacles into stepping stones. But how do you cultivate this mindset first? Change how you see challenges when rejected. Don't take it as proof of your inadequacy. See it as an opportunity to improve. When you make a mistake, don't berate yourself. Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of avoiding discomfort, deliberately put yourself in tough situations. Take on a difficult task, confront a fear, attempt something you are not good at. Every time you do, you are training yourself to become unbreakable. The Bible offers a profound insight. We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character. Suffering isn't something to avoid. It's what shapes us. Those who understand this no longer fear hardship. And as you become anti-fragile, something strange happens. The things that once worried you no longer matter. You stop being ruled by emotions. Stop being wounded by petty things. But there is still one thing that can unsettle you: expectation. As long as you expect things to go your way, you remain vulnerable to disappointment. But if you expect nothing, what could ever disturb your peace? Let's explore further. Number 9, no expectations. Have you ever felt frustrated when your food delivery arrives later than expected? Have you ever been disappointed when someone doesn't respond to your message right away? Or worse, have you ever expected a friend to always be there for you only to feel let down when they start drifting away? If so, you've fallen into the most dangerous trap of the mind. Expectation people don't make you unhappy. It's your expectations of them that do. We expect delivery drivers to be on time, forgetting that they're just humans too, dealing with traffic or an overwhelming number of orders. We expect instant replies to our messages, forgetting that others have their own lives, their own responsibilities. Or maybe they're simply not in the mood to talk. We expect friendships to remain unchanged, but everyone evolves and sometimes it's no one's fault. Sounds simple, but how do we actually apply this first? See the world as it is, not as you want it to be. People have the right to act as they choose, just as you have the right to decide how you react. Don't expect colleagues to always be polite. Don't expect family to always understand you. Don't expect traffic to always be smooth. If you start your day without demanding that everything go your way, you won't get annoyed when someone cuts you off or says something you don't like. This doesn't mean you are passive or indifferent. It means you are free. You do what needs to be done, but you don't tie yourself to the outcome. Imagine you are a swimmer. If you expect the water to always be warm and the currents to always be in your favor, you'll be frustrated every time the temperature drops or the waves push against you. But if you simply focus on your technique, regulate your breathing, and enjoy each stroke, you'll move forward without being affected by external conditions. Life works the same way. If you stop expecting everything to align with your desires, you won't be thrown off by unnecessary disappointments. Some may ask without expectations what drives us, but think about it. Aren't the happiest moments often the ones you never anticipated? Like receiving an encouraging message out of the blue, getting a small gift you never saw coming, or unexpectedly hearing a song that brings back beautiful memories. These joys feel pure because they're not tied to expectations. On the other hand, the most disappointing moments tend to come when you've already scripted an outcome in your mind, only to have reality unfold differently. Even the Bible says, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring." We don't know what tomorrow holds, so why chain ourselves to fragile expectations? In the end, ask yourself what would happen if you lived just one day without expectations, if you accepted everything as it came, rather than as you wanted it to be. You discover something extraordinary. No one could upset you anymore. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who might need it, because they too might be stuck in the invisible grip of expectations without even realizing it. Number 10, turn everything into a game. Have you ever played a game with a child who truly loves the game? Not for the rewards, but for the joy of playing. They might lose 10 times in a row and still beam with excitement, eyes sparkling as they say, "Next time I'll do better." Meanwhile, an adult, maybe even you can get irritated just because someone cuts in line or feel unsettled all day over an unanswered message. Why is that? Aren't both playing a bigger game, the game of life? If you pay attention, the people most affected by small inconveniences are often those who take everything too seriously. They see traffic as a battlefield where anyone cutting them off is an enemy. They see work as a war zone where any criticism is a personal attack. They treat every debate like a fight where losing means humiliation. But what if it's all just a game? What if traffic jams were just a challenge to test your patience? What if that annoying coworker was just an NPC program to see how well you keep your cool? What if failing at work was just a game over screen, but you still have more lives left? Once I went to a cafe and ordered a black coffee, no sugar. The barista mistakenly handed me a sweet milky one instead. I was about to ask for a replacement, but then I thought, never mind. Let's see if I can drink this without making a fuss. And guess what? It made no difference to my life. A friend of mine, on the other hand, once got overcharged by a few cents at a store and stayed frustrated about it all day, complaining to anyone who would listen. Now, who do you think had a better day? Turning everything into a game doesn't mean being irresponsible or avoiding problems. It's just a shift in perspective. When you are running and feel exhausted, instead of thinking, "I'm too tired, I need to stop," try, "Let's see how much farther I can go without complaining." When someone criticizes you, Instead of reacting instantly, ask yourself, if this were a game, how would I win? Is winning about frustrating them with my silence, or is it about using calm words to turn them into an ally? When your boss assigns you a difficult task, instead of groaning, think, if this were a hard level, how would I beat it? Try it today. The next time you face something annoying, pause for a second and ask yourself, if this were a game, what's the best way to play it? You might be surprised at how much less things get to you, and one day when someone tries to push your buttons, you'll just smile and think, oh, I've played this level before. We've just explored 10 ways to become immune to life's distractions. Not by running away or fighting against the world, but by mastering our minds, shifting our perspectives, and controlling our reactions. Life will always throw challenges our way. Difficult people, unfair situations, unexpected setbacks. But now you know the truth. The power is yours. No one can disturb your peace unless you allow it. True. Freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from mastering yourself. When you take control of your mind, you take control of your life. When you remain calm, you become stronger than anyone. Let me ask you this. What if I told you that everything you want to become is just one good day away from being set into motion? What if I told you that change doesn't begin with a grand gesture, but with a small intentional act, that you're not as far from your ideal self as you've been led to believe, that it's not some distant version of you that succeeds, but the version of you that chooses today to act with discipline, intention, and clarity? The Stoics believe that we are not promised tomorrow, but we do own today. And in this truth lies power. Raw, untapped, limitless power. You don't need a year to change. You don't need the planets to align or a perfect storm of conditions. You only need one day, one decisive moment. One shift that day becomes the catalyst, the spark that sets everything in motion. Then 1 week of momentum starts to shape a routine. Then 1 month of that same commitment reshapes your identity. You are no longer the person who wishes. You are the person who does. You are no longer driven by motivation. You are guided by your own inner law action. As the Stoics said, acta, nonverbal actions, not words. This is not a dream we are chasing. This is not a hollow, each meant to hype you for 5 minutes. This is the framework for transformation, a blueprint written in the ink of discipline, forged in the fires of effort and molded by consistency. This is a practical, tested, enduring philosophy. The Stoics didn't believe in waiting. They believed in doing. They didn't just talk about virtue. They lived it. They didn't theorize about strength. They embodied it, and so must we. In this video, we will walk the Stoic path, not just as scholars of ancient thought, but as warriors of daily action. We explore what it means to transform not over the course of a year, but in the course of a single day that is repeated with unrelenting commitment. This is not a motivational fantasy or a temporary spike in effort. This is the foundation of a life well lived. The Stoics taught us to rely not on fleeting emotions, but on deliberate choices to build routines that anchor us to pursue excellence. Not once, but every day to walk forward, no matter the weight we carry. This is the path. This is the fire within. Let us begin Chapter 1. 1 day of honest living. The Stoic Epictetus once said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? There is no perfect time to begin. The perfect time is the moment you decide that the promises you make to yourself are sacred." 1 day of true forward motion can change your entire outlook. It marks the beginning of something greater than a routine. It signals the return of self, respect. It is the beginning of a bond forged between who you are and who you aspire to be. It is the start of trust, of personal credibility, of inner strength. On this day, you act not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. You begin the day by anchoring your mind to your intention, by reminding yourself that this day matters, that it counts, and that you will not waste it. You are a person of substance, of character, and you will live like it today. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations reminded himself daily, "Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, incense, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil." He said this not to be discouraged, but to steel himself to meet life, not with bitterness, but with bravery. He was preparing for the battle of the day, not against others, but against his own temptation to abandon virtue when confronted with adversity. He wrote this to remind himself of his nature and to walk in harmony with it no matter what came his way. A single day of living by your own code is the spark. It ignites the dormant fire within you, a fire long smothered by hesitation, doubt, and delay. You set your alarm and rise with purpose, not to check off a box, but to affirm your transformation in motion. You do not hit snooze because the person you are becoming refuses to betray themselves. Before the day even begins, you rise because your time is valuable. You rise because your word means something. Now you exercise not just for the body, but for the mind, because discipline in one area echoes into all others. Every drop of sweat is a promise kept. Every movement reinforces the idea that you are a force under your own control. You eat with intention, not indulgence, because you are not rule. By craving, you are guided by wisdom. You speak with clarity and kindness, not out of obligation, but because your words reflect your values. They are no longer weapons or tools of manipulation. They are instruments of truth. You avoid gossip not because it is forbidden, but because it poisons your peace. You understand that entertaining drama is a distraction from your purpose. You do not complain for you. Recognize that complaints steal your strength and hand your power to others. You choose instead to face challenges with calm, with resolve. With inner clarity, you show up where you said you'd be, not to impress anyone, but because your presence is a form of integrity. You are a person of your word, and that means everything. You do your work not to impress, but to express excellence. Your craft becomes an extension of your values. You do not seek praise because your fulfillment comes from doing what is right, not from applause. You finish what you start because unfinished promises are debts to your own soul, and you are no longer willing to carry such debts. Each action becomes a stone placed in the foundation of your future self. That's one Stoic day. One day lived, not for the image, but for the essence. One day where your behavior reflects your values without compromise. One day where your energy flows into creation, not complaint. One day where you do not falter when alone because you are now led by your inner compass. And one Stoic day is a declaration, a message to the world and to yourself that you are no longer waiting to become great. You are no longer bargaining with your potential. You are no longer standing at the edge. You have stepped in. You are already on the path, and that path is now sacred. Chapter 2: Momentum is earned. One day is all it takes to initiate a shift. That first day is like the first push of a heavy boulder, difficult, demanding, yet deeply meaningful. It awakens your awareness of what's possible, but one day alone will not carry you. It gives you momentum, but only if you continue moving forward with intention. The strength of your resolve will be tested on the second day and again on the third, but each time you pass that test, you become more steady. If you make it through that first day with full integrity, it's easier to face the next. That's how you build a week of Stoic living. Through daily reaffirmation of your values, your purpose, and your discipline. Momentum is earned through repetition, not intensity. It is not the fire that burns brightest for a moment that endures, but the one that smolders persistently through the cold. The Stoics understood that true strength isn't revealed in rare, dramatic efforts, but in ordinary actions done consistently. You don't need to run a marathon on day one. You need to move every day, a walk, a workout, a deliberate breath taken in silence. Movement is what the Stoics admired. Forward intentional movement, not perfection, not performance. Just progress. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet or life overnight. Radical change is fragile. What you need is durable progress. You need to make one good decision then another, and another one right meal. One choice to drink water instead of wine. One night of sleep over another wasted hour on a screen. You choose one act of restraint over indulgence. You choose one moment of silence over gossip. You choose one pause over an impulsive reaction. You pause, you breathe. You realign with your higher self. Each time you make that choice, the foundation of your future self strengthens. The Stoics were not interested in sudden bursts of enthusiasm. They knew that emotion is fleeting and impulse is dangerous. They didn't believe in motivation. They believed in momentum. What they sought and what they practiced was consistent, rational, intentional action. They understood that true transformation comes from tiny victories repeated relentlessly. They weren't fascinated by intensity. They were devoted to duration. That's why they trained themselves daily. They practiced hardship not to punish themselves, but to prepare themselves. They embraced discomfort, not for its own sake, but because it built a tolerance for life's inevitable trials. They planned for adversity so it would not surprise them, and when it came, they were ready, not shaken. Discipline was not an accessory to them. It was the core of their freedom. It wasn't a supplement to their lives, it was the spine of it. The Stoics understood that without discipline, even the wisest philosophy would wither. Discipline was how they translated principle into practice. It allowed them to respond, not react, to act from clarity, not confusion. The ability to act without being ruled by external events was their ultimate power. They trained for adversity. They rehearsed for chaos, not because they were pessimistic, but because they believed in being prepared. Discipline to them was not harsh or rigid. It was the very structure that made freedom possible. They mastered themselves so they could face the world with calm and clarity. To the Stoic, discipline was liberation. Not the kind that is loud and boastful, but the quiet kind that is unshakable. It is a stillness that storms cannot touch. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And how do we waste it? Not in the grand failures, but in the small moments of passivity, procrastination, and distraction, in the hours we spend worrying about what others think. In the endless scrolling, in the silent, hesitating in the constant, avoiding in the cheap comforts that add up to a costly life. We waste time. When we wait to feel ready, we delay. Great, because we think the mood must be right, the timing perfect, but time never waits. The Stoic does not wait. Either 1 week of full presence, 1 week of daily practice, and you start to feel the shift. It's subtle at first, less irritation, more focus, a sense of alignment begins to take root. A quiet confidence enters your actions, not because you know everything, but because you know yourself. The noise of the world grows quieter. The urgency to prove yourself begins to fade. The need for external approval loosens its grip. You stop chasing validation and start building character. You start leading by example, first for yourself and soon for others. You become reliable not just to others, but to yourself, and that is no small thing. That is the foundation of self-trust, and that self-trust is the soil where everything else grows. That is the first promise of a new you, a you that acts instead of reacts, a you that leads instead of follows, a you that does not wait for conditions to be perfect. A you that remembers repetition is not boring, it is sacred. Each repetition is a ritual. Each repetition is a sharpening of the sword, and each repetition is proof that change is not only possible, it is happening. Chapter 3: The Power of a Week. 7 days of intentional effort carves a new identity. Each day reinforces the one before it. These aren't merely repeated behaviors. They're quiet declarations of who you are becoming. The habits begin to take root not only in your actions, but in your thoughts, in the tone of your inner voice. In the way you respond to difficulty, you notice the difference in your thoughts, your posture, your tone, your mood. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. Because each day you chose not to be swept away by impulses or emotions, but to anchor yourself to a deeper truth. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to respect the person staring back at you in the mirror. You hold your head a little higher, not with pride, but with peace. You've earned the right to believe in your own word. This is a profound shift, and once you've felt it, you won't want to go back. The Stoics didn't just teach positivity. They taught resilience. They taught us that the world will not bend for us, and that's okay because we can bend for nothing. You aren't aiming for a good week by luck, you are aiming for a strong week by discipline. That's the difference. You are no longer hoping that things will go well. You are preparing to face whatever comes by the end of the week. You are no longer just surviving your days. You are directing them with conviction and clarity. You wake up with purpose, and you go to sleep with peace. You are no longer at the mercy of chaos or the whims of external pressures. You have become the calm within the storm, a stable presence in a turbulent world. This steadiness becomes your strength. The practice becomes a part of you, almost automatic, yet deeply intentional. The rhythm of your day is no longer dictated by external distractions, but set by your inner compass. You begin to live with rhythm, with harmony, with purpose and internal cadence of excellence. Each action you take throughout the week carries with it the echo of the day before. Your decisions become more deliberate. Your awareness deepens. You begin to anticipate your needs instead of reacting to your weaknesses. You find beauty and repetition, dignity and routine. You recognize that discipline is not restriction. It is elevation. You are no longer resisting change. You are becoming it, and you feel worthy of your own respect. Not because you accomplished something dramatic, but because you stayed true. Because you followed through that. Self-respect becomes the anchor of your soul, something solid and immovable. Even when the world trembles, it's not something you find. It's something you build one choice at a time, one moment at a time. It's in how you carry yourself, how you respond to difficulty, how you hold the line when no one else is watching, and self-respect is fuel for the next phase, the month. It becomes your inner flame, quiet but persistent, carrying you forward. You now know that you can trust your effort, that you can rely on your consistency. You've seen yourself endure temptation, overcome distraction, and act with intention. You've walked through resistance without retreating, and now you carry the weight of your momentum with grace. That rhythm you established in 1 week can be the metronome for an entire month of progress and transformation. You are building more than habits. You are reshaping who you are and what you expect of yourself. That you can repeat this rhythm and build upon. It is not just a hope. It is a certainty born from experience. Your daily rituals have become your code. Your words and actions have realigned. You have removed the gap between intention and execution, and now your identity is catching up to your vision that you are not chained to your past, but are sculpting your future. That truth rings louder each day. The past no longer holds dominion. Your mistakes do not define you. Your decisions do that. You are no longer building a life you want to escape from. You are creating a life you are proud to live, is the essence of liberation. You wake up and see meaning. You go to bed knowing you've honored your values, and even more than living a life you are proud of. You are shaping one that is worthy to be shared with others. One of stability, of character, of presence. One that speaks without having to shout. The momentum is yours now. It is not fragile. It is fortified. It is not temporary. It is transferable. You can take it into the next chapter, the next challenge, the next level. You are not hoping anymore. You are moving. You are sculpting. You are leading. The decision is no longer just to start, but to keep going with full heart and full effort. You are not only building consistency, you are becoming it. Chapter 4, from week to month. Now you carry the momentum of a week. You've earned it. It lives in your posture, your habits, your attention to the small details. Now you are stepping into the month. This is the proving ground. This is where most people fall, not because they are incapable, but because they misunderstand what's required. They fall because they think it has to remain exciting, that the energy of the beginning must remain constant. It doesn't. It has to remain yours. It has to become sacred. It has to evolve from excitement to devotion. The Stoics taught us to act in alignment with nature, and nature is not always loud. It is not hurried. It is consistent. It is patient. The tide rises and falls without fail. The sun greets the sky each morning, even when we do not look up. The tree grows not by rushing, but by deepening its roots, steady, silent, resilient. Your growth is the same. You don't need to see results every day. You don't need the applause. You don't need a sign. You need to stay in motion like the river. Your power is not in force, but in persistence, a full month of integrity, of repetition, of purpose. This is how a new identity is formed, not an identity borrowed from others. Not one cobbled together through comparison, but one forged from action day by day without excuses. A month is not a long time, but it is enough time to shift who you are at the core. In that span, you build a new rhythm. You build rituals, you stack small acts of strength one on top of the next until they form a tower of trust within you. You wake, you act, you reflect, you repeat, and in this cycle, you begin to realize that growth is not only possible, it is inevitable. If you stay the course, you begin to feel the structure beneath you, the foundation that does not wobble when things go wrong. Your emotions may sway, but your actions remain anchored. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to lead yourself, no longer pulled by the tides of impulsive emotion, but directed by your inner compass. This is how you become the person you once only dreamed about. The person who follows through, who perseveres, who no longer breaks promises made to themselves. You move without waiting to be told. You no longer wait for inspiration or instruction. You don't hesitate when there is work to be done. You no longer look for permission to pursue excellence. It's already yours. It's already the standard. You no longer explain your efforts. You embody them. You no longer seek validation for doing what's right. You simply do it because it's who you are. You follow your own compass, not swayed by moods nor by trends, but by principle. You keep your word to yourself, and that word is law, not negotiable, not conditional, not weathered by the pressure of the day. It is your code. It is your character carved into habit, and when you live by that code for a month, something powerful happens. You become someone others can rely on. Your consistency becomes visible. Your presence becomes solid. You are no longer experimenting with discipline. You are embodying it. The structure you've been building internally begins to radiate outward. Others can feel it. There's weight behind your words, certainty in your choices, and calm in your decisions. People will trust you, not because you ask for it, but because you've become trustworthy through your own rigor. But more importantly, you become someone you can rely on, and that changes everything. You no longer hesitate when it's time to act. You no longer need to debate with yourself about whether you are capable. You trust your own word. Again, you don't wonder whether you'll follow through. You know because you've proven it. Not once, but again and again in small deliberate ways. And each time you kept a promise to yourself. Each time you stood firm in the face of temptation or fatigue, you told your soul, we are not weak. We are in control. That is how Stoic lives, with awareness, with resolve, with consistency. That is how transformation becomes real. Not in grand declarations, but in quiet repetitions, not in the illusion of overnight success, but in the sacred repetition of forward action, not in distant dreams, but in daily actions that become habits, and then virtues over time. Those actions become your nature. They become your way, they become your essence, and with each passing day of discipline, you rise into who you were always capable of being. Not a version of someone else, but the fullest, clearest version of yourself. Chapter 5: Discipline over Motivation. There will be days when the energy isn't there. Days when your mind feels heavy, when your body protests, and when doubt tries to whisper in your ear like a shadow clinging to your steps. On those days, every excuse will seem justified, and every task will seem like a burden. These are the days that separate those who rely on fleeting inspiration from those who rely on enduring discipline. This is when your discipline must speak louder. Louder than fatigue, louder than fear, louder than the comfort of staying the same. The Stoics believed motivation was unreliable. It is a spark, not a furnace. It can light a fire, but it cannot keep it burning through the night. Emotions, they taught, are like the weather, ever-changing, often unpredictable and impossible to control. One day the skies are clear and your spirits are high. The next it rains and everything feels heavy. You cannot control the weather, but you can build shelter, you can prepare. Discipline is your shelter. Discipline is your furnace. Discipline is like architecture. You build it, you live in it, you depend on it. It supports you when your feelings do not. When you no longer negotiate with yourself. When you stop entertaining the idea that maybe today you'll let it slide. You become unstoppable, you become resolute. Motivation fades after a long day. It runs dry after disappointment. It vanishes under pressure. It disappears. When results don't show fast enough, it retreats when you are tired, when you are uncertain, or when the world feels like too much. Motivation is a spark, not a fire. It cannot sustain you in the long, cold nights of doubt. Discipline, however, remains. It is not glamorous. It is not loud, but it is steady. It is reliable. It whispers, we finish what we start, not because we always want to, but because we promised we would, and because the person we are becoming deserves that promise. Kept motivation. Wants comfort, it seeks applause. It feeds on short-term rewards. It asks for the path of least resistance. Discipline chooses action. It asks for what is right, not what is easy. It demands you rise even when you'd rather retreat. It demands presence when you'd rather escape. It asks you to work in silence, to grind in solitude, to show up again and again without needing praise or recognition. It builds the kind of self-respect that is immovable, the kind of character that can't be shaken by a bad day or a harsh word. When the world tells you to slow down, to take it easy, to blend in and do less, discipline reminds you who you are becoming. It doesn't yell, it simply stands tall inside you. It whispers the truth. You've been living for days, weeks, even months now. It says, keep going. It says you are not average. It says you have chosen the harder path because it leads to the stronger version of yourself. It reminds you of the vision you hold for your life. Clear, burning, and deeply personal, of the direction you chose. Not when things were easy, But when they were hardest of the strength you've already built through every small battle. You fought silently and won privately. It brings your mind back to the promises you made, not in front of a crowd, but in the quiet of your own heart. Those promises were not dramatic. They weren't written on social media. They weren't shouted. They were whispered to yourself in the dark. And because they came from that quiet place, they carry more power than anything external ever could. They are sacred. You made them to yourself, and now they guide you. And in that moment, you don't wait to feel like the person you are becoming. You act like them. You speak like them. You move like them. You lead like them. You don't hope, you embody. You channel them with every deliberate breath and every chosen action. You stand in their shoes and move with their posture, with their level-headedness, their calm, their strength. You begin to notice that you no longer imitate that version of yourself. You are that version of yourself. You've arrived not with fanfare, but with footsteps. One in front of the other, steady and strong, because action shapes identity. Because action redefines belief, because the only way to become is to do. And that, above all, is the Stoic way to be defined, not by how you feel, but by what you do, especially when it's hardest to do it, especially when the weight is heaviest, especially when no one is watching. That is when your character is carved. That is when your soul sharpens. That is when you are most alive in motion, in truth, in discipline. Chapter 6. Keeping promises to yourself. If you want confidence, you must keep your promises. Confidence is not something you find. It's something you build. Self-respect is not given. It is earned. Every time you show up, even when it's hard, you make a deposit in the bank of self-worth. Every act of discipline, every fulfilled promise, every moment where you push through resistance adds to the inner reservoir of trust. You begin to believe in yourself, not because you've been told to, but because you've given yourself evidence, repeated evidence. Confidence is not arrogance. It's not bravado. It's not volume. It's not a mask you wear for others. It's certainty in your direction. It's clarity in your values, conviction in your decisions. It's the quiet strength of someone who no longer questions whether they can follow through, because they do follow through. It's a presence that needs no introduction. Confidence is the echo of thousands of kept promises. It's the result of standing firm when it would have been easier to fall back. It's not built in front of others. It's forged in the silent moments of solitude. At the times you said yes to what was right and no to what was easy. A man or woman of integrity walks taller, speaks clearer, listens deeper. They don't flinch in adversity, they face it. They don't need to dominate a room to command presence. That kind of person doesn't need to shout to be heard. People feel it. They feel the calm, the groundedness, the stability that only comes from a soul that honors its own word. That stability is not manufactured. It is earned moment by moment. Through the quiet repetition of effort and restraint, you become the person who says, "I will," and follows through, not just once, not just when it's convenient, but every time it matters, even when no one is watching, who says this matters and proves it through consistent action day in and day out. You become the person who doesn't need reminders, who doesn't need to be hyped up to do what is right. Because it has become who you are. You no longer live on the vague promises of someday or wait for a more convenient moment. You move today with urgency, with grace, with unwavering clarity. You begin to operate on a higher frequency. One where intention and execution are no longer separated by hesitation or doubt. And each time you do, each time you keep your word to yourself, you close the distance between who you are and who you aspire to be. That gap becomes narrower, more manageable, until one day there's no gap at all. Only congruence. You live as one unified whole, not fragmented by indecision or self-betrayal. That change doesn't happen with one grand act, But in hundreds of small choices, that gap shrinks. Not because you are chasing perfection, but because you are practicing integrity. Not once in a while, but as a lifestyle. You become more than consistent. You become dependable. You become resilient. You become someone others lean on. When things fall apart, you become reliable, trustworthy, and deeply self-assured in the most powerful sense. That kind of self-assurance is magnetic. It pulls people in, not because you are trying to impress them, but because you are anchored in something real. It doesn't boast. It doesn't need to be validated. It simply is. It exists like gravity, silent, constant, and undeniable. That person is rare in a world full of noise, distraction, and empty promises. That person doesn't just inspire respect, they command it. Their presence becomes a mirror for others, a reminder that greatness isn't found in charisma or charm, but in consistency. A standard, a light, a walking example of discipline. Over time, that person changes their life, and by doing so, they change the lives of those around them. They raise the standard, not by what they say, but by how they live. Their presence challenges others to rise, not through pressure, but through inspiration. They show others what's possible, not through words, but through example. They demonstrate that greatness is available to anyone willing to honor their commitments to practice self-mastery. And to lead with purpose, they create a ripple effect. When one person moves with integrity, others notice. When one person chooses discipline over comfort, it becomes easier for those around them to do the same. Their example is not performative. It is deeply felt. They prove that strength is not about domination, but about direction, about choosing to stay the course when everything tempts you to turn back. It's about leading yourself with courage when no one is clapping, about holding the line when it would be so easy to let go. It's about remaining grounded when life gets chaotic, about remaining humble when success comes, and determined when failure knocks. That kind of strength is silent but powerful. It's the strength that keeps showing up, that keeps building, that keeps walking forward no matter how long the road. And that is the kind of strength the world needs more of, strength rooted in values, shaped by repetition, and revealed in action. A strength that isn't situational or cosmetic, but one that endures. A strength that doesn't need to shout, but is heard in everything you do. A strength that is honest, earned, and unmistakable. This is Stoic strength, calm under pressure, clear under uncertainty, and relentless in the pursuit of what is good, true, and necessary. That person, built one act at a time, becomes a beacon of what is possible for themselves and for everyone watching. Chapter 7: Habits, not goals. Goals are temporary targets. They are fleeting mile markers that can be useful for direction, but they are not destinations. Habits are permanent tools. Systems you live by, not ideas you chase. Goals can be missed. Habits, once embedded, are carried with you no matter the conditions. The Stoics didn't say, be rich, be famous, be admired. They said, be excellent in all that you do. Excellence is not an event. It is a habit. It is a pattern of behavior. It is a lifestyle stitched together by moments of presence and purpose. Forget goals that only live on paper. Build habits that live in your bones. Build habits that survive failure. Build habits that outlast your moods, your distractions, and even your doubts. Build habits that make excellence a default, not an exception. Habits that create identity, not just productivity. Wake early to win the morning, to take control of the day before the world imposes its noise on you. Move often to keep your body and mind sharp, because movement is clarity. Reflect deeply so your thoughts remain aligned with your values and don't drift into chaos. Speak truthfully so you do not fracture your spirit with falsehoods that eventually corrode your soul. Work honestly so you can sleep peacefully knowing that what you gave was real and worthy. These habits will carry you where motivation cannot. They will lift you. When enthusiasm fails, they will anchor you. When temptation calls, they are your silent armor against the chaos of life. The magic of habits is in their quiet force. They don't demand attention. They don't need applause. They don't care who's watching. They simply stack one small action at a time until your life has been reshaped by things that once felt insignificant. One glass of water, one stretch, one breath of presence, one journal entry, 1 hour of focused effort. They build a structure around your life that keeps you aligned. Even when you feel misaligned, you become the kind of person who doesn't have to think twice about doing what's right because you've trained yourself to do it naturally. You've made it your rhythm. The right thing becomes the normal thing. And in a world of chaos, that is your greatest edge. Once you focus on daily action instead of distant outcomes, life becomes more manageable. You begin to see life not as a single test, but as a series of opportunities to build. The overwhelming becomes achievable. The distant becomes near, and the impossible becomes routine. You don't climb the mountain in one leap. You take the next right step, and then the next. You don't wait to feel brave. You move. You don't hope to feel ready. You prepare. You don't stand at the bottom paralyzed by the summit. You move forward with faith in your process. That's it. One day, then the next, then the next. Until suddenly you are standing somewhere you once only imagined built. Not by luck, not by willpower alone, but by discipline, one habit at a time, repeated until it rewired who you are. Chapter 8: Identity Shift. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks into a month, you will change, not just on the outside, not just in routine, but in identity. Your thoughts will sharpen. Your posture will straighten. You will notice the subtle yet undeniable shift from reacting to responding, from chasing to creating, from doubting to believing. This change doesn't scream, it doesn't announce itself. It simply unfolds quietly, consistently, and unmistakably until it becomes who you are. You start to believe in your word, not just because it sounds nice, but because you've proven it to yourself. You begin to trust the quiet commitments you whisper to yourself before the world wakes. You walk with calm certainty, no longer thrown by chaos or consumed by noise. You don't need applause because your approval comes from your own integrity. You are no longer measuring your worth through the lens of others. You are guided by internal measures, a personal compass that never waves. That is Stoicism in practice, not theory, not rhetoric, but embodied virtue. You will notice something else. Others begin to respond, not because you seek their approval, but because your presence now speaks for itself. People can feel the difference when someone carries truth. You become a quiet leader, not because you take the spotlight, but because your steadiness becomes a source of gravity. A reliable friend because you say what you mean and you follow through a person. People look to when things fall apart, not because you have all the answers, but because you remain composed when others can't. Your discipline becomes a shelter. Your consistency becomes a light. You are not trying to impress anyone. You are just living in alignment, but that alone changes everything. You become someone others model. After you raise the bar in the rooms you walk into, you shift the energy simply by being consistent, calm, and intentional. And it all began with one solid day, one day of honest effort. One day of silent discipline, one day of choosing action over excuses. One day of saying I will and proving it. That one day led to 1 week, and that 1 week gave birth to a month, and that month became the foundation of a new you, stronger, clearer, truer. This is transformation. One step at a time, one choice at a time, in motion, always in motion. Chapter 9. Respect, trust, and influence. People respect consistency. They trust integrity. They are drawn to conviction, not the kind that wavers in the face of difficulty, but the kind that endures through uncertainty, discomfort, and time. There is something magnetic about someone who does what they say they will do every single time. Someone whose habits reflect their values, whose actions speak louder than anything they post, say, or perform. Consistency is a rare currency, and it earns more than attention. It earns respect. You don't earn influence by asking for it. You don't demand it. You don't need a platform or a title. You don't need a crowd. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room. You earn it by embodying it. You earn it through your presence, through your consistency, through the way you walk into a room and people feel that something is different about you, not because of what you wear or what you say, but because of how you carry yourself. You earn influence by becoming the example others didn't know they were looking for, by being the one who follows through when others quit, the one who stays late when others leave, the one who shows up even when no one else does. You are dependable, grounded, and deeply aware of the standard you uphold. You become the one who speaks only when necessary. And when you do, your words carry weight because they are backed by action, not fluff. People listen because your voice has credibility. They observe because your actions reflect discipline. They feel the depth behind your silence and the sincerity behind your speech. You earn influence by consistency in character day after day, not just when it's convenient or visible. Your strength becomes a kind of refuge for others. Acquired permission for them to be strong by not swaying in storms, by not cracking under pressure, by being calm when others panic, by remaining clear when others are confused, by being principled when others compromise. Your character is no longer situational. It becomes permanent, unwavering, like stone. You become someone who does not need to talk about what they believe because they live it. They embody it. People learn your values by watching you, not by reading your posts or hearing your speeches. You earn it by being rooted, not reactive, grounded in principle, unmoved by praise or criticism. You develop an immunity to both compliments and insults because neither define you. You define you by choosing to be the stable ground. Others can stand on when their world shakes. You offer more than support. You offer certainty in uncertain times. Your discipline becomes a beacon of what's possible when someone takes full responsibility for who they are and what they bring to the world. Do this for 1 year, just one day at a time, and everything changes, not overnight, but inevitably, gradually. Then all at once, you become a force, not a storm that comes and goes, not a firework that flashes brightly and fades, not loud, not erratic, a current silent, strong, steady, relentless, that current carves through stone, reshapes the landscape, and leaves a lasting mark on everyone it touches. Your presence changes the temperature of a room. Your commitment redefines the culture of every space you enter. You become someone who doesn't need to announce transformation, because it's already evident in how you move, how you hold yourself, how you live, and how others feel in your presence. Your eyes reveal depth. Your voice carries weight. Your life demonstrates proof. You don't shout that you've changed. You don't need to. It's visible in your discipline. It's heard in your silence. It's proven in your consistency. That is the Stoic ideal. Unshakable strength, born from quiet discipline. Influence, earned, not given. A legacy built, not by chance, not by force, but by deliberate motion. Calm, clear, daily, a legacy that needs no introduction because it's already being written in the life you lead. Chapter 10, the rule to remember: 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. That's all it takes to set the course. Just a single day of forward movement can disrupt years of stagnation. A week of discipline can reset your internal compass. A month of consistency can rebuild your identity from the ground up. That's not theory. It's truth in motion. The path may be long, but the starting point is always within reach. All it takes is your decision to move. You don't need to wait for a new year. You don't need a sign from the sky or a perfectly aligned calendar. You don't need someone else to push you. You need to decide. Decide that you've waited long enough. Decide that the version of you you've been postponing is already inside you, waiting to be practiced. Decide that today, not tomorrow, is the day you draw the line between who you've been and who you are becoming. If you fall, get up. That's part of the system. Falling is not failure, it's friction. Friction creates movement. Movement creates growth, and growth by nature is not linear. It spirals. It doubles back. It challenges you to revisit lessons you thought you already learned. Motion. Always motion, not perfection, not fantasy. Just forward. You keep going, not because it's easy, not because you always feel like it, but because you've committed to being the kind of person who keeps going, the kind of person who gets up one more time than they fall. You rise again and again with more clarity, more strength, more resolve, and every time you rise, you reinforce your identity as someone who cannot be broken by momentary setbacks. Remember who you are building. Remember where you are going. This isn't just a vision board fantasy or an exercise in wishful thinking. This is the foundation of your becoming. Visualize that person in detail. Picture how they carry themselves. Shoulders back, eyes steady, voice calm. Not from arrogance, but from alignment. How they respond under pressure, not with panic, but with poise, with grounded courage and composure. How they speak with honesty and presence. Even when it would be easier to lie or stay silent, how they walk with intention and quiet confidence, not hurried, not uncertain, but deliberate. How they lead with humility, courage, and conviction that stems from living in harmony with their principles. Be them now, not later. Not when things are easier, not when you have more time. Be them with what you have, where you are. Don't wait for the comfort to arrive generated by showing up consistently again and again. Don't wait for clarity. Forge it through action shaped by effort and trial. Don't wait to feel ready. You become ready. By beginning, readiness is not a state of mind. It's a product of commitment. It is born from repetition, from small wins accumulated over time. That's the Stoic way to act before the mood strikes, to build when no one is watching, to do the hard thing, when applause is absent and no reward is promised, to remain consistent, not just for results, but because you refuse to betray your values, because your code is not performance, it's principle, to return to the path. No matter how many times you've strayed, not with shame, but with strength, not with guilt, but with grace, to understand that progress isn't linear and discipline isn't always clean. But both are sacred. To stop counting failures and start collecting lessons. Each stumble becomes a stone you step on rather than one that sinks you, to rise again without dramatizing the fall. Because what matters is not that you fell, but that you rose. It is a way of living, of choosing, of becoming, a philosophy, not limited to study, but expressed through action. It's not loud, but it's unwavering. It's not flashy, but it's powerful. It's not desperate for praise, because it's fueled by clarity and purpose. It doesn't demand the spotlight, but it casts light in dark places through courage, through calm, through quiet consistency. It is steady like the earth beneath your feet. It is clear like a mountain stream. It is relentless in its simplicity, because simplicity is what cuts through chaos. The Stoic doesn't hope for a better future. They build it not someday, but today. Not all at once, but brick by brick, one deliberate day at a time. They rise early. They do the work. They tell the truth. They show up again and again, not for the outcome, but for the person they become in the process, and each time they do, they become more of who they were always meant to be. Not just better, but truer. They become their own example, living proof that change is possible. Their own compass guided not by trends or temptations, but by timeless principles. Their own foundation, unshakable, unmovable, and built from within. Think about it. How often do you find yourself saying yes to things that don't serve you just to please others or meet societal expectations? We say yes to work commitments we don't want to, social events we don't enjoy, and to tasks that don't align with our long-term goals. Every yes to something that doesn't matter is a no to something that does. By simplifying your life, you start saying yes to what truly matters and no to what doesn't. The Stoics understood the power of simplicity. They believed that true contentment comes not from accumulating things, but from learning to live with less. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that we should focus on what's essential and let go of what's not. He believed that the less we are attached to material possessions, the freer we are to pursue what truly brings us peace. To simplify your life, start by decluttering both your physical space and your mental space. Begin by looking around your home. Do you have things you don't use, don't need, or don't love? Start letting go of the material possessions that weigh you down. This doesn't mean you need to get rid of everything, but it means becoming more intentional about what you allow into your life. Keep only what adds value, what you truly need, and what brings you joy. Next, simplify your schedule. We often fill our days with tasks that don't contribute to our long-term goals or well-being. Take a step back and evaluate your commitments. What are you spending time on that isn't aligned with your values or goals? By eliminating the unnecessary tasks, you free up time for what really matters, whether it's working on a passion project, spending time with loved ones, or simply enjoying some quiet time. Simplifying your life also means learning to let go of the constant desire for more. The pressure to accumulate wealth, possessions, or status can cloud our minds and distract us from what truly brings happiness, instead of constantly striving for the next thing. Ask yourself, what do I already have that brings me joy? True fulfillment comes from appreciating what you already have, not from constantly chasing the next big thing. The power of simplicity lies in its ability to bring clarity. When you remove the clutter physically and mentally, you create space for peace, focus, and growth. Simplicity allows you to direct your energy where it matters most without getting lost in distractions or unnecessary complexity. The key to simplifying your life is making conscious, intentional choices. It's about evaluating what's truly important to you and saying no to the things that don't align with your values. It's about creating space for peace, for clarity, and for the things that will help you live a more fulfilling life. So today, take a moment to reflect. What can I simplify in my life? What do I need to let go of in order to create more space for what truly matters? Whether it's decluttering your home, simplifying your schedule, or letting go of attachments to material things, simplifying your life will bring you closer to the inner calm you are seeking. 11. Let go of perfectionism. Have you ever found yourself stuck in the pursuit of perfection? Maybe you've spent hours, days, or even weeks trying to make something just right. Whether it's a project at work, a personal goal, or even a relationship, you keep tweaking, adjusting, and second-guessing yourself only to find that perfection is an ever-moving target. The reality is perfectionism doesn't lead to peace. It leads to frustration, stress, and burnout, and often it keeps us from moving forward at all. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. It makes us believe that unless we do something perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. This mindset traps us in a cycle of never feeling good enough, never feeling ready, and never feeling satisfied with what we've accomplished. But the truth is, perfection doesn't exist. It's a myth, a standard that's set so high that it's impossible to reach. And the longer you chase after perfection, the more you miss out on the satisfaction of completing something, the joy of growth, and the ability to embrace the beauty of imperfection. The Stoics understood the dangers of perfectionism. They taught that we should focus on progress, not perfection. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, said, "Perfection is not when there is no more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away." In other words, perfection is not about achieving some ideal, but about getting rid of the excess, the unnecessary, and the distractions that keep you from moving forward. It's about doing your best and accepting that your best is enough to let go of perfectionism. Start by reframing your mindset. Instead of thinking that everything needs to be perfect, shift your focus to progress. Ask yourself, what is the next step I can take to move forward? You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to get everything right. What matters is taking action, learning from your experiences, and improving over time. One effective way to break free from perfectionism is to set realistic expectations for yourself. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress. Set small, achievable goals and celebrate each step you take toward them. The more you focus on the process rather than the end result, the less pressure you'll feel to be perfect. And as you start to embrace imperfection, you'll find that your anxiety about getting it right starts to diminish. Another strategy is to remind yourself that mistakes are part of the journey. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. When you accept that failure is not the end, but a step on the way to success, you'll stop letting perfectionism control you. You'll realize that the fear of making mistakes is often worse than the mistakes themselves. The beauty of imperfection is that it allows for growth. When you stop chasing after an unattainable ideal, you give yourself the freedom to evolve, adapt, and improve you. Stop feeling trapped by unrealistic expectations and start seeing the value in each effort, no matter how messy or incomplete it may seem. Think about the things you've accomplished in your life. How many of them were perfect from the start? Chances are most of them required effort, mistakes, adjustments, and improvements along the way. Perfection is a moving target, but progress is something you can always measure. The more you embrace the imperfect process of growth, the more peace you'll find in the journey. So today, make the decision to let go of perfectionism. Start by giving yourself permission to take imperfect action, to learn from your mistakes, and to celebrate your progress. No matter how small, you don't need to be perfect to make a difference. You just need to show up, do your best, and embrace the beauty of imperfection. Let me tell you something more about embracing non-violence, which has a profound impact on one's emotional life. Firstly, it requires developing a high degree of self-awareness and self-control to ensure that one's actions and responses do not cause harm. This inward focus promotes emotional regulation, as individuals must constantly monitor their impulses, particularly in stressful or provocative situations, instead of reacting in anger or irritation, which might lead to harmful outcomes. Adherents of non-violence are encouraged to respond with patience and understanding. Additionally, practicing non-violence helps to reduce internal turmoil. When you commit to non-harmful behavior, you align your actions with positive ethical values, which can reduce feelings of guilt, anxiety, and internal conflict. This alignment brings about a sense of peace and self-respect that can stabilize mood swings and help cultivate a more positive outlook on life in daily life. Practicing non-violence can take many forms. It can mean carefully choosing words that do not hurt others. When you are angry or frustrated, it involves active listening and empathy, striving to understand others' viewpoints. Without rushing to judgment or retaliation in challenging situations, it may require you to step back and take deep breaths, consciously deciding to respond in a way that does not escalate conflict at a deeper level. Non-violence in thoughts involves cultivating kindness and compassion towards oneself and others, even in thought. This means avoiding self-criticism and judgmental thinking, which are often automatic and can be harmful. By practicing forgiveness and understanding towards oneself, one can extend the same attitude towards others, reducing the likelihood of emotional reactions that might lead to violence. In professional settings, non-violence promotes a cooperative and supportive work environment. It encourages resolving conflicts through dialogue and consensus, rather than competition and aggression. This approach not only improves workplace relationships, but also enhances productivity and satisfaction in personal relationships. Practicing non-violence can transform interactions. It encourages addressing conflicts calmly and constructively without blame or coercion, leading to deeper understanding and stronger bonds. Ultimately, embracing non-violence in all aspects of life promotes a more peaceful existence, both internally and in one's interactions with the world. It fosters a culture of respect, understanding, and compassion essential for creating a more just and harmonious society. Tip 21. Cultivate a positive mindset. Cultivating a positive mindset is crucial for overall well-being and effectiveness. In handling life's challenges, it involves more than just a cheerful outlook. It's about creating a robust framework that influences how you interpret and respond to various situations. The power of positive thinking is well documented in both psychological research and personal experiences, showing significant benefits in terms of physical health, mental health, and overall life satisfaction. The power of positive thinking. Positive thinking helps you see the potential and good in situations rather than focusing solely on the negatives. This perspective doesn't ignore the realities of life's difficulties, but approaches them in a more constructive and hopeful manner. For instance, positive thinking can reduce stress, enhance resilience, improve your immune system's response, and lower rates of depression. Moreover, it can increase your lifespan and quality of life, providing a healthier approach to handling everyday stresses and major life events. Strategies to develop a positive mindset. 1. Practice gratitude. Regularly practicing gratitude can shift your focus from what's missing in your life to what's present and valuable. Keeping a gratitude journal where you write down things you are thankful for each day can significantly lift your spirits and deepen your sense of contentment. 2. Reframe negative thoughts. This involves consciously changing your perspective on challenging situations. For example, instead of thinking, "I can't handle this," try reframing it to "This is challenging, but I can work through it." This slight shift in perspective can reduce anxiety and increase your feeling of control over the situation. 3. Surround yourself with positive influences. The people around you can significantly affect your outlook on life. Spend time with friends and family who uplift you and support your goals. Also engage with media and literature that encourage a positive view of life and personal growth. 4. Set realistic goals. Setting and achieving goals provides a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Make sure your goals are realistic and attainable, breaking them down into manageable steps to avoid feeling overwhelmed. Celebrate your successes along the way to maintain motivation and a positive outlook. 5. Practice positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are uplifting statements that you repeat to yourself to build self-confidence and begin manifesting a positive reality. For example, starting your day by affirming, "I am capable and strong. I can tackle today's challenges," can set a positive tone for the day. 6. Focus on the present. Worrying too much about the future or dwelling on the past can foster negativity. Practice mindfulness and focus on the present moment to appreciate the now, reducing stress and promoting a positive mindset. 7. Take care of your physical health. Physical and mental health are deeply interconnected. Regular physical activity, a healthy diet, and adequate sleep can improve your mood and energy levels, making it easier to maintain a positive mindset. Incorporating these strategies into daily life can transform your approach to challenges and interactions. For example, a positive mindset can make you more resilient in the face of job stress or personal setbacks. It enables you to handle criticisms constructively and see failures as opportunities for growth in personal relationships. A positive attitude can encourage more open and supportive interactions, strengthening bonds, and creating a more loving environment. Ultimately, developing a positive mindset is about consistently choosing to focus on the beneficial aspects of your experiences and maintaining hope in difficult times. This approach not only enhances your own quality of life, but can also inspire and uplift those around you. Tip 22. Trust the process. Trusting the process is about embracing the journey of life with faith and patience, even when the path is unclear or outcomes aren't immediately favorable. This approach is crucial because it helps you navigate life's inherent uncertainties and complexities with a sense of peace and purpose, rather than anxiety and frustration. Understanding the importance of trusting the journey is essential for maintaining emotional stability. Life is unpredictable, and many aspects are beyond our direct control. Trusting the process involves acknowledging that every experience, whether good or bad, has a role in our personal growth. This perspective can significantly alleviate stress about future uncertainties and reduce disappointment when things don't go according to plan. Instead of obsessing over specific outcomes, trusting the journey encourages you to focus on growth and the lessons learned along the way, fostering a deeper sense of contentment and resilience. Trust also plays a pivotal role in emotional stability by promoting patience and inner peace. When you genuinely believe that you are on the right path, you are more likely to approach challenges with calmness and clarity.
This mindset not only reduces panic and irritation in difficult times, but also enhances your overall optimism, which is linked to better mental health and well-being. Additionally, trusting the process is key to developing resilience. Understanding that setbacks are often temporary and can lead to new opportunities allows you to recover more quickly from difficulties.
This approach provides a psychological cushion against life's ups and downs, helping you to stay focused and composed. To cultivate trust in the process, consider these practical steps. 1. Reflect on past experiences. Spend time reflecting on instances in your past where unexpected events led to positive outcomes, or where you grew as a person from a challenge. This can help reinforce your trust in the process by showing you that difficult paths can lead to rewarding destinations. 2. Set intentions, not just goals. While goals are important, setting intentions about how you want to grow, what values you want to embody, and how you want to contribute to your community can help you remain open to various outcomes. This is it for today. If you believe this video was helpful, be kind and leave a thumbs up and comment, "I am Stoic."